Annexation, Decision for the Future. A television report to the citizens of Duval County and the city of Jacksonville. A documentary which explores a leading question of our time. Should the city consolidate with its ever-growing suburbs? This program is one of a series of public service broadcasts concerning the growing issues which affect us all. Annexation, Decision for the Future, is a WMBR TV News and Public Affairs presentation.
It's obvious many people need to know what annexation means to them as individuals. What happens when one suddenly finds himself living within the city limits?
In 1950, 82 cities added new land. 1951, the figure almost quadrupled as 309 American cities merged with unincorporated areas. The boom for annexation continued in 1952, with 402 cities joining lands as small as 1 acre, as large as 80 square miles in San Antonio, Texas. In 1953, the city of Tampa made annexation history by merging with 46 square miles of adjacent land in Hillsborough County. Tampa was suddenly 242% larger. There were 95,000 more people in the city. 410 cities annexed in 1954, 526 in 1955.
And so the pattern goes. The foundation of any annexation is usually twofold. Fringe areas want municipal services, cities want more revenue. The balance between those two factors should ideally be equal. In many cases, services far exceed taxes returned, at least in the early years. Therefore, a great number of annexations are based on the prediction that eventually the new areas will pay their own way. It's this one question that evokes most controversy.
I think we pay enough taxes.
Well, I'm against it, providing that it's worthwhile for the city to take this over, and the people that are brought in through this annexation would pay their fair share.
Yes, I definitely would. I feel very strongly about this.
If I got the services, very definitely. If the taxes were in line with the services, let's put it that way.
If we got what we wanted.
If annexation comes to Jacksonville, it won't be for the first time. Long before the turn of the century, cities known as Fairfield and La Villa became part of Jacksonville. That was in 1887. In 1925, the town of Murray Hill fell within the city limits, and many longtime residents of Duval County will remember 1932 as the year the city of South Jacksonville lost its municipal status to join the parent city. In April of 1931, Florida Governor Doyle E. Carleton signed a bill calling for an election within the two cities to determine the annexation. On May 26th of that year, the freeholders of both cities went to the polls and registered their... But what about today? This is a quarter of a century since annexation was last accomplished. From the University of Florida in Gainesville comes advice for the entire state by a recognized expert in this field, Dr. J.E. Dovell.
With the coming of motor vehicle transportation, the American city has spread broadly in ever-increasing circles of suburban development. The growth of our metropolitan community, while increasing in density and congestion in the central city, has been much more extensive in the suburban areas. This territorial expansion has brought very complex problems in our social, economic, and political life of each of these regions. Thus, such large cities as New York, Chicago, Philadelphia, and Los Angeles are surrounded now by several incorporated cities, smaller cities, often called satellite cities. The great metropolitan area which results becomes to a large extent physically, economically, and socially a single major urban unit. This modern phenomena, which has occurred around our largest cities, has also occurred to a lesser degree around the cities of Florida. Incident to the growth of the metropolitan areas in Florida, such as Jacksonville, has been the development of population in suburban sections outside the central city. Thus, the percentage of the population around or in the metropolitan area of Jacksonville is equal to 16% of the people who live in the city, according to the 1950 census. The probabilities are that more than 25 or 30% of the metropolitan population is now outside the city of Jacksonville and in Duval County. The growth of these unincorporated fringe areas has been accompanied to some extent by the practice of many of our suburban sections seeking to become satellite cities around the big city, as is true in Duval County. These suburban areas may develop as blighted areas with adverse effects on the central city's health and morality, or as new residential areas where the householders continue to enjoy many of the benefits of the central city without sharing in the tax burden. The growth of metropolitan areas in Florida is a matter of grave concern in a majority of them today. Florida cities are seeking relief, especially in problems of finance from any source, and the prevailing conditions have alerted many responsible officials and citizens to the acute need for action. The search for a plan is through annexation. These interests who desire annexation have sought firm citizen support in their search for efficiency and economy in government, and this will develop the obvious advantages to be gained from the elimination of the duplication of functions and operations in 30-odd municipal or district governments in the metropolitan area, such as Jacksonville.
The growing state of Florida is finding one source of hope within her own state statutes, laws that are avoiding situations like this.
We of the city of Dallas, Texas, had to annex 27 times in order to gain 5 square miles of new land.
Here in Milwaukee, we well remember 1953, when annexation procedures were repeated 43 times in order for the city to add 2.5 square miles.
Antiquated state annexation laws have in many cases been a deterrent to progress. 75% of cities studied had to overcome those laws by making more than one annexation. On June 3, 1957, the Florida legislature took another step and created an Annexation Study Commission for Jacksonville and Duval County. Chairman Guy L. Simmons tells of the commission's purpose.
The duty of this commission is to study the metropolitan unincorporated areas in Duval County surrounding the city of Jacksonville as to the needs for municipal-type services and how they can be feasibly met. After this study is completed, the commission is to draft a full report and render this report not later than September the 1st, 1958, to the following: the Duval County delegation to the Florida legislature, the city commission of the city of Jacksonville, the members of the city council of the city of Jacksonville, and the members of the Board of County Commissioners of Duval County, Florida, for their consideration and action. Permit me to say, each member of the commission has publicly stated he would give freely of his time, would attempt to render conscientious service, and in the end render a report based solely on the conditions and circumstances found to exist. We trust all the residents of Duval County will try and realize the commission is attempting to render a helpful service.
Creation of the Annexation Study Commission did not mean annexation was feasible or inevitable. But through the efforts of the Jacksonville Area Chamber of Commerce, a group was formed with the sole purpose of studying the problem from every available source. What the commission recommends will eventually be left up to the voting citizens. But why did the Chamber recommend the formation of a study commission?
There are an estimated 128,000 persons living in subdivisions adjacent to the Jacksonville city limits.
There is a growing need and demand for municipal services, which in certain instances have been extended to non-incorporated areas of the county. Tax revenues from these areas would amount to about 2/3 of the cost of providing the services.
The complicated question of what constitutes just taxation will be one of the most involved duties of the Annexation Study Commission. Then, too, the commission must draw on predictions of growth of population to determine how many people might be affected. But while the commission studies, people began drawing their own conclusions. The tide of public opinion begins to swell. Now there is talk of annexation, the pros and cons come to light. From his office at City Hall, Jacksonville's Mayor Hayden Burns gives his views.
1932 was the last time that the city of Jacksonville took positive action toward the expansion of her city limits. Since that time, by expansion activities, the city of Miami has moved well into the first position, and Tampa, most recently, has relegated us to the third position. Now, presently, our population in the federal census is approximately 200,000. It should, by all rights and all reason, be about 300 to 325,000 in the next federal census. There are many people who want to argue on the score of the economy of expansion. Let's, at this point, consider that there are many other factors besides the pure economics of how much taxes would be received or what the expense of city services might be to take in these rapidly growing areas who are all around our borders. I have never looked on government as a profit-making function. On that score, however, again, let's consider that the cost of government to the residents inside the city limits this past year, 50% of that cost was deferred from the earnings of the electric light plant. And the greatest part of that profit came from the people outside of the city limits who are buying electrical power. There are presently, within a radius of 2 miles of the city limits, approximately 125,000 people who are living under urban or city conditions. Now, our various forms of government are designed to meet certain needs. As an example, the state meets certain governmental functions. The county government, which is designed for rural areas, is certainly not capable of providing municipal services. I'm thinking in terms of those health services such as garbage collection and sanitary inspectors and all of those. The question has come up relative to how much would it cost the person living in these surrounding areas if they were brought into the city limits. Well, actually, it would not cost them anything. A survey, which I hold before me at this point, taken in Lake Lucina, over in the Arlington section, proves that out of 20 homes, that the average savings to those people would be $55.28 a year. That includes, of course, their new low fire insurance, which would come with their receiving their fire service from the city of Jacksonville. And so actually it would be an economy move for our new citizens. It would be a smart business move for the people of Jacksonville to represent to the entire nation that we are a metropolitan city of in excess of 300,000 than to be misrepresented as being the third largest city in the state with a population of approximately 200,000.
Among those government bodies to receive the Study Commission's report will be the Board of Commissioners of Duval County. Senior board member Joseph F. Hammond, who began serving with the board in 1921, notes the prospects of city-county consolidation.
It all depends just how far the annexation is going to extend in Duval County. By that, I mean that people ought to be informed as to what they're going to get or what they can look forward to getting in a lifetime. What the people of Jacksonville, and I don't say the people of Jacksonville want, I want to see Jacksonville be a large city myself. But I'd like for the people to be informed to what they can expect. I don't want the people to be hoodwinked into voting for something that they don't know what they're going to get. One of my biggest thoughts, annexation, is that people have a say-so to whether they want to vote to come in or whether they want to vote to stay out. I want to see Jacksonville grow into a big city. I want to see it have a population. But you must remember there's thousands upon thousands of homes that's in Jacksonville in the present city limits that haven't got any sewage, drainage, or paved streets. I think we in the county, the people in the county are more fortunate in being in the county of what they're receiving out there to being in the city. The people are expecting
a whole lot of things that I don't know how they're going to get them on account of money. I want to say that one thing, regardless of what happens, I hope the people will have a chance to vote on whatever they decide to do. I hope the legislature will give them that authority.
At the lowest possible cost.
Zoning.
Application of ordinances designed to protect all categories of property owners. These basic services, 8 of them, are the areas in which some changes would be evident. It's obvious that many would take some time to become completely integrated, for many still do not affect all the city itself. Others, Cahill notes annexation's effect on the various phases of his office.
As sheriff and the chief law enforcement officer in Duval County, may I point out that there are many differences between the duties of a deputy sheriff and a city policeman. These are primarily attributed to a wider spread in population, faster highways and the movement of traffic, plus many problems only associated with a suburban area. Now, you already know that your county law enforcement program is an excellent one. It is appropriate that I speak against annexation because I live in the county, and I do not want my taxes increased without any appreciable increase in services. In fact, voting for annexation would merely be a vote for a duplication in government, an additional overlapping in services at a staggering increase in cost to the taxpayers. As for fire protection, we already have excellent volunteer fire departments with literally no cost to the taxpayers. As for electricity, that's already provided to us countywide without a utility tax on it. As for water, that's provided us by the developers of these various communities and suburbs. As for streets, they are already paved and already paid for by developers, and in most cases better than those in the county, in the city. As for sewage, it is not being dumped in the St. Johns River. Instead, privately owned treatment plants properly take care of such wastes. As for garbage collection, it is in most cases more frequent, and it's being handled by privately owned interests that pay taxes. Now, I would like to brag and say that my city, or Jacksonville, has more population than some other city here in Florida, but why pay an extravagant cost for the luxury of bragging on population when the penalty is a terrific increase in taxes and overlapping government and duplication?
On the other hand, as the city becomes larger, what problems loom for Jacksonville's police? Chief Luther Reynolds answers that question.
I don't believe, in my opinion, that the annexation of the part of the county up to the city would mean any great problem to my department. At the present time, I feel confident that I have enough supervisory personnel. Possibly I would have to add additional patrols. We handle, as you know, at the present time, the majority of the people that live in Duval County, in our city, in our traffic, at the present time in the daytime. Of course, the protective angle of night where we'd have to receive the calls, why, we would have to add a few additional patrol cars to take care of the outlying districts where they have the shopping centers and the residential sections. We naturally have our city cut up in zones, which we would have to add the county on what part, when it was annexed. And I don't think it would be too great a problem to take care of it. Possibly at the present time it could be covered with one-man patrol cars, which we cover a lot of our territories at the present time with one-man patrol cars.
upon the community. But, on the other hand, if the city can offer better services, then I'm for it.
Oh, yeah, sure. I'll say they should take them in if the financial arrangements are satisfactory to both sides.
And County Commissioner Julian Warren sets forth his views.
There are doubtless advantages and disadvantages to annexation of more of Duval County into the city limits of Jacksonville, Florida. To the best of my knowledge, your county commissioners have not been consulted about nor invited to join in the study of the advisability or feasibility of increasing the city limits of our great and good city. And since your county officers have neither been consulted or advised in the matter of extending the city limits, I speak simply as a concerned citizen. I request that the individual, groups, boards, or others appointed or designated and who are or will be in such position to advise me and all of us people who will be affected as to the merits of the annexation to do so. Then I want the privilege of voting my own decision as to extending our city limits. And I feel certain that our outstanding legislative group and delegation will give us that right and privilege.
Future generations as well as his own. For as Oliver Wendell Holmes once said,
I find the great thing in this world is not so much where we stand as in what direction we are moving.